Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you are in the world. My name is Aaron Gustafson. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a middle-aged white man with long wavy hair, glasses, and a red and gray beard that my wife refers to as salt and paprika. I'm speaking to you from Seattle, Washington, on the unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, most notably the Duwamish, whose longhouse is about a couple miles from my house here. Some of you may be familiar with my work. I've been a web designer and developer since the mid-90s. I've authored dozens of articles and a couple books and given a couple hundred talks on web development over the years. In fact, if my math's correct, I think this may be my 150th talk. But over the years, I've probably been best known for my work in progressive enhancement and accessibility, but I also led the Web Standards Project back in the day, and I'm currently the editor-in-chief of A List Apart. So I have deep roots in the web dev community, particularly in the accessibility space, but that's actually not why I'm here today. I'm here today because 9 months ago, I started to change things up and decided to use my accessibility skills in different ways. In my case, I joined the Microsoft Accessibility Innovation Team to lead our investments through the AI for Accessibility Grant Program. But I'm not here specifically to talk about AI either. I'm here to talk about how you can put your accessibility skills to work beyond finding and remediating accessibility bugs. So in my career, I found it's really easy to get typecast or pigeonholed when you're a developer whose focus is accessibility. This is a bit of a cruel irony because many of us are driven by a desire to tear down barriers of access for others. Our companies and sometimes even our colleagues put us in a box, and they don't seem to realize that the knowledge of how to make products accessible has huge value beyond compliance and avoiding lawsuits and such. Sorry. We might be able to level up from a junior role to a senior role, or maybe even make it to principal based on our performance, but career growth beyond that is often limited to moving into people management, which is a wholly different skill space, right? And maybe that's your aspiration, that's totally cool. But what if you want to grow as an independent contributor? But when our organizations put us in that box, they make it really difficult to grow our scope and to increase the impact we have for both our organizations as well as the people that we serve. Now, don't get me wrong, I love compliance work. I'm not here to disparage it in any way. It's critically important, and it means so much to our customers when we remove barriers for them. But after years in this industry, I also see the downsides of life in the accessibility dev box. Perhaps you can relate to a few of these. Colleagues don't understand or value what I do. I need like 3 or more of me to handle the current workload. Teams are resistant to changing the way they do things. Progress feels glacially slow, and sometimes I feel like I'm going backwards, or I feel isolated on the team or in the company. Again, I'm not trying to cast code compliance work in a bad light, and I'm not trying to get you down on it. What I want to do is build you up because I believe in you. I believe that you, as a developer interested in accessibility, have so much more to offer your organizations, your customers, and this industry as a whole. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. When I was doing this work on the regular, I struggled to see how I could grow my impact. And in the intervening years, I've discovered a bunch of ways that we can bring our knowledge and passion for accessibility to other areas of both web development and the tech industry overall. So I'm here to talk to you about opportunities. As I mentioned at the start of this talk, I've been in this industry a long time, and I've held a lot of different roles since the 90s. I've held just about every web-related role you could imagine. I've also been an educator. I've been a spec editor at the W3C. I've worked in developer relations. I've worked in strategic roles. I've worn an awful lot of hats, which is totally fine with me because I'm starting to thin a little bit at the back. But all of this is to say, I've seen and experienced a lot of ways that you can be valuable to your current employer or perhaps a future one. And I'm going to share 5 of those with you today. Oops. Why that isn't building. Oh, sorry. I'm going to share 5 of those with you today, focused on design systems, product design, work in AI, work in analytics and data analysis, and work in D&I. These are by no means the only options. As I mentioned, if you're happy with what you're doing, please don't consider this a talk to nudge you to change things up. I just want to make sure you're aware of the value that you bring to other kinds of roles, some of which you may not have considered before. I also want to make it clear that I'm not advocating that you take on any of these responsibilities in addition to your current work. Far too often, organizations ask those of us with accessibility skills to do things beyond our job description without any additional compensation for that work. And please, please do not fall into that trap. It will definitely lead to burnout. So the first area I want to talk to you about is design systems and strategy in that area. So if you're really interested in continuing in the space of development, software development, an area that can allow you to continue to work in that same area is in design systems. I'm not going to go deep on design systems. There are a bunch of talks and even whole conferences devoted to this topic, but I will give you kind of the Cliffs Notes if you're unfamiliar. Design systems and pattern libraries within them, they codify your organization's design and coding guidelines such that you're creating a way that the software that you produce is consistent and the teams that are working on those are able to be more efficient because they're not having to design each UI from scratch. Having that design system is also great for accessibility because it enables those components within the design system to be made accessible, to fix bugs there and to have those fixes percolate out rather than having to find and fix bespoke accessibility problems in each individual UI. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this, and so that's why design systems are a good place. Now, if you work in a small organization, it's possible that you aren't working with a design system yet. And knowing what you do about their accessibility benefits, you could advocate for the creation of one. And for having its care and maintenance to be your job. So in this role, you can work with engineers to create system components. You can audit the system regularly for compliance issues. Of course, paying special attention to how combinations of components can create their own issues, their own unique issues. You can provide in-house accessibility training to the design and engineering folks to help them level up their own skills. Provide design systems training and implementation guidance to the folks implementing the design system and new hires as they come in. And then, of course, celebrate the success of the teams that are using the design system, particularly when it comes to their accessibility wins. You could do this in person, you could do it in online meetings or via email, depending on how your team is sized and distributed across the world. Now, if you're in a larger organization that already has a design system, you could be a bit more strategic in your approach. So you could be the accessibility advocate within the design system and pay attention to the context of all of the software development practices within your organization and really come at that from an accessibility lens. You could be the conduit of your organization's senior management, as well as to individual product owners to ensure that accessibility is top of mind for them and baked into their roadmaps. Part of that also means advocating for the necessary funding to achieve your accessibility goals. So taking care of the problems that you see as an independent contributor of not having enough of you to go around and to handle the workload. You can provide guidance and create structure within your organization to ensure your accessibility goals are met. Educate and mentor folks from across your organization or your company on accessibility. And again, celebrate the heck out of any and all accessibility wins, no matter how small. We've already discussed some of the challenges facing accessibility devs, and getting public recognition for our accomplishments can really help to boost morale. So as an accessibility dev, your unique perspective and skills will help build greater alignment on accessibility among teams and improve morale by speeding up development and reducing bugs. Now, the next topic I want to talk about is product design. As I mentioned, in the role in larger orgs can be more strategic. And this is another strategic role that's focused on shaping the products that we build as a product designer, product owner, product manager. The titles vary by company, but this is sort of that product management role. Now, in this role, we can actually put that shift left credo that we advocate for regularly into practice. We need to embed ourselves with feature teams so that we understand what motivates them, understand their visions and their goals, and see how you can frame your recommendations in such a way that they will be welcomed and embraced in order to improve accessibility. Being embedded with that team or with those teams also means that you can discover potential hazards earlier and eliminate them. And you can educate the team about issues and how to avoid them, so it makes it less likely that the teams will run into them down the road or repeatedly. You can ask questions and offer upskilling to the team, helping them to learn to build products that will reach and be usable by more people. And you can make sure that people with disabilities are included and paid for their contributions in all of the research and co-creation and testing that the team is doing to ensure that they're better understanding the needs of people with disabilities. All of this work has huge business value for your organization. First of all, it saves your engineering and quality assurance teams a ton of time. And as we all know, time is money. You can reduce your company's legal risk for lack of compliance, which also saves money in legal fees, not to mention settlements. You'll be building products that work for more people, leading to better overall customer satisfaction and reduced churn, which again is going to contribute to that bottom line. And you'll also create new revenue opportunities by increasing the number of folks that you can serve. And on that last point, I often point to WhatsApp as a great example of this, because when they were launched, there were nearly 8,000 chat apps in the iOS App Store. If they'd only offered their app to that audience, they would never have found the level of success that they did because competition was so high. They expanded their potential customer base by supporting OSs that others were ignoring, like Android 2.1 and BlackBerry 4.7 and Symbian and Nokia Series 40, even Windows Phone. And some of these were not even smartphone OSs. And when they sold to Facebook for $19 billion, they had over 600 million users worldwide. And that was because they created the opportunity to have a larger customer base by serving more users where they were and with the needs that they had. Accessibility is much the same. If we consider accessibility in the same way WhatsApp considered OSs, we can grow. Or to think about it another way, stop artificially suppressing our customer base and succeed where our competition fails. So as an accessibility dev, your unique perspective and skills will ensure that your company ships higher quality products with fewer bugs and for less money. The third opportunity I want to bring up is moving a little bit further afield, but I want to talk about how much we need your skills in the world of data science. So as part of a data science team, which is who are tasked with measuring a variety of things when it comes to software, you can bring attention to accessibility in product metrics by ensuring key business metrics include data from people with disabilities. You can include additional product metrics that reflect the experience of different disability communities. You can measure things like the time that it takes to complete certain tasks using different AT combinations and track improvements and regressions over time, which will help you to, again, improve the overall accessibility and the efficiency of people with disabilities using your products. And then apart from products, you can also have a profound impact on your organization's internal processes as well. So we can capture things like automated testing passes and track compliance over time, often using CI/CD systems and such. But beyond just sort of having that tracking, also having bits of data that can be really helpful with understanding an organization's approach to accessibility. So how many new bugs did we get in this cycle? How many are remediated? How many are currently outstanding? How many did we mark as won't fix? And what's the average age of outstanding bugs? These can help us to understand our compliance process and how we're doing in that space and whether we're actually taking accessibility seriously. And this sort of information really needs to be bubbled up in top level reporting to our senior management. And if you wanted to keep working in the UI space, let's say you're just really enjoying the act of building stuff, You can totally do that in the data science world as well, because we have all of these dashboards and tools that data scientists use to analyze all of this stuff. So you can ensure that those analysis tools are accessible. Make sure that the charts that they're producing are accessible. Provide access to raw data tables and such in order to ensure that people can access the data in the most basic form possible as well. You can also work on enabling API access to data that will enable your colleagues to create additional tooling that works better for them. And this is incredibly necessary because a lot of organizations neglect the accessibility of our own internal tools. And so this is another area that you are desperately needed. So as an accessibility dev, your unique perspective and skills can help your company make decisions that result in more inclusive and accessible products that provide a better user experience and may even increase revenue. The fourth area desperately in need of your skills and perspectives is AI research and ethics. So AI is a hot topic now for sure, and it absolutely has the potential to meaningfully improve people's lives, including people with disabilities. But to get there, organizations really need your help. You have the knowledge and you have the connections in this space to harness the power of AI in service of people with disabilities. So as part of an AI research team, for instance, you can observe how people with disabilities interact with the world today and consider how AI could increase their independence, make certain actions easier for them or more intuitive or more efficient, or increase the richness of experiences that they have. You could work to co-design with folks from a range of disability communities. And of course, you can make sure that when people are considering the interests and wants from people with disabilities, that they don't make assumptions about how far that particular want or desire spreads within that community, that they don't hold one person up as sort of the ideal blind person or something like that, which can lead to really problematic decisions. Now, this is the space that I'm really grateful to be in right now. My job is literally to identify and fund projects that are using AI to improve the lives of people with disabilities. And I want to talk about a couple of those just to kind of get your juices flowing in terms of how AI can help in this space. So for example, there's the Orbit project. There's been lots of work in object identification using cameras, and most focus on labeling what I would call like perfect images, which doesn't do a whole lot to help folks in the real world. Think about grapes isolated against a white background. If you feed 10,000 photos of purple grapes against a white background into a thing, it's going to get really good at identifying purple grapes against a white background, but it's not going to do great for somebody who's maybe blind using their camera to try and recognize things. A blind person is likely to have a hard time perfectly framing an object in order to give an image recognizer a chance to identify what's in front of the lens. And so this project from the City University of London worked to enable what's called few shot learning. So few shots, as in just a few samples of novel objects, by training the model on brief videos that were taken by blind and low vision collectors. So you can imagine that you're going to be dealing with things like out of frame, slightly out of focus, blurry, those sorts of things. And these videos are quote unquote imperfect in that they're going to have all of this noise to the signal of what it is that they're actually trying to record a video of, which is actually a good thing in training a machine learning model, right? Enabling AI systems to recognize objects that are captured in imprecise ways makes for a more robust recognizer that's capable of identifying objects in less than ideal contexts. So that's helpful for people with disabilities as well as everybody else, right? It improves the overall quality of these systems for everyone. Another example is Mentra, and they're using AI to pair neurodivergent folks with employers who recognize the profound contributions they can make in their companies. Mentra's platform collects holistic data on job seekers, such as their cognitive strengths, their aptitude, environmental sensitivities, and accommodations that they need. And it takes these into account when matching those individuals with available positions, which also include comparable information. So Mentra takes care not to screen out individuals who come from non-traditional backgrounds, and they also work in sort of a reverse job fair model where applicants only fill in one profile and then their AI works to recommend them for jobs that are a good fit. and employers indicate their interest and invite the job seekers to interview, which lessens the stress level on the job seeker because they're not having to actively go out there and apply for job after job after job. It reduces the stress. And it also reduces the stress that goes along with feeling like you need to cover when you do accept a job, because they've made it clear in advance what accommodations they need in order to be successful. The third project I'll share with you is working in the mental health space. There are a ton of cognitive behavioral therapy chatbots out there, and other services working in this space. But we were really intrigued by iWill, which is based in India. And the reason that we were really intrigued about this is that there's a profound scarcity of mental health professionals. If I remember correctly, and my numbers may be slightly off, I think there's 0.4 mental health professionals per 100,000 people in India, something like that. It's pretty low. And most CBT chatbots are in English. And this can be problematic for a number of reasons. So we're actually funding this project in order to help them train a CBT model end-to-end based on real cognitive behavioral therapy sessions in Hindi, because we believe that's the only way to avoid potential problems that are inherent in translation. So going from Hindi input to English so that the ML can understand it, and then back to Hindi again, which can create all kinds of potential issues, especially when you're dealing with something as important as someone's mental health. And then there's also the biases that could be inherent, and we may not even recognize from the involvement of English, from the imposition of a Western language onto a South Asian audience. I could spend hours, honestly, talking about all of the good that AI can do in the world, but I also recognize that AI can also perpetuate and exacerbate exclusion. AI actually has the ability to really compound things exponentially and make things a lot worse. So AI teams need your skills to help them address bias toward and the exclusion of people with disabilities. And they need you there to be protecting their privacy as well. You'd bring a lot to an AI team in this regard, helping to identify bias or potential bias in data sets, helping to promote the representation of people with disabilities in those data sets, ensuring that people with disabilities are not being exploited by these data sets, or that their work is not being taken advantage of in the creation of these data sets. And you can ensure that the interfaces to these various AI tools are also accessible, and ensure that the products that they create themselves are also accessible. And then finally, you can validate that the products of AI are not directly biased or exclusionary, and that they can't be used to perpetuate bias or exclusion. So as an accessibility dev, your unique perspective and skills can help to ensure that advancements in AI and ML are beneficial and not harmful to people with disabilities. The last role I'll talk about is probably furthest afield from development, but it also has the most profound impact on the teams that do the work, and that's D&I, or diversity and inclusion. Now, I don't imagine I need to spend a ton of time making a case to this audience for why diversity matters, but here's a quick rundown just in case, and for those following along at home, I guess. So diverse teams mean that you have diverse perspectives and lived experiences being brought to the table, and that's a good thing. If valued, that knowledge can make it easier to identify potential barriers and opportunities earlier on in product cycles. Diverse teams are more likely to exhibit empathy towards all users, including those with disabilities. Diverse teams are known to be more innovative. And if you don't believe me, there's a Harvard Business Review article that I have linked here as well, and I'll tweet out this link as well. So that's another aspect that we need to consider, and they also make better decisions. So how can we get involved, or how should we get involved in terms of D&I stuff? Well, there's all sorts of different aspects. The first is sort of the pipeline. And as someone who's keenly aware of the importance of having diverse teams to build inclusive products, you can do a lot to ensure that your organization embraces diversity in its recruiting efforts. So a lot of this comes around to like asking questions and then making changes based on the answers that you receive to those questions. So do we have a disability hiring policy? Are recruiters actively screening in people with disabilities? Where are we posting these jobs? Are they reaching people with disabilities? Is the language of our job postings exclusionary or making people feel like they shouldn't apply because they have a given disability? And then in our interview process, is that inclusive? Is that accommodating to people and accepting of their disabilities and really helping them to be able to show up as themselves? And then another thing that you could do, and this is something that you certainly could do without being a formal part of a D&I organization, but you can actively solicit disabled talent for roles within your company. So that's actually something you could do without being a formal part. You could just kind of consider it part of your job. Now, you could fix the pipeline and have all kinds of diverse talent coming to your company, but if the environment is not ready for them, they're going to leave. You're going to end up with churn, right? This is where a lot of the problems are. And churn is expensive from a company standpoint. So in order to retain diverse talent, we need to make sure the teams that they join recognize the value that they bring to an organization. And this is where D&I training and coaching comes in. So we need to be changing the frame. We need to help people understand the lack of diversity creates knowledge gaps, and diverse hiring helps to fill those gaps. And diverse colleagues' knowledge and lived experiences have value. And if we don't have those folks in those roles, we're going to continue to have gaps in our knowledge, and we're not going to be able to build great products. We need to be active in calling in non-inclusive and biased behaviors. Calling out just ends up creating antagonism, but if we lead with curiosity and ask people why they feel a certain way or why they believe a certain thing, that can help us to get a better understanding and get them to understand our perspective as well and why they should be valuing diversity. We can also improve the inclusiveness of processes and the environments that we live in as part of this work to help to retain folks, change the way that we're conducting meetings, change the way we handle office hours and things like that. And I also think it's really important to normalize disability in everyday interactions, and even more broadly to normalize just humanness, right? To be able to say, oh, I have a dentist appointment today, or I have to take my kid to the doctor or stuff like that, to be able to show up as full human beings creates the space for others to be able to do so as well. I was very thankful that in my last role, I was able to make this kind of D&I work a formal part of my responsibilities, like a full third of it, which was amazing. And with that backing, I was able to, without being a part of a D&I organization, still lead D&I trainings and events across the company while still being able to do the other work that I loved. But there are many companies that do have formal D&I teams, rather. Some of those are in HR, some of them are not. And so there is opportunity to have this be a full-time job if that's something that's of interest to you. Now, in addition to having a place that values diversity, it's also important for folks with disabilities and other people who are diverse within teams to be able to grow within those teams. If those opportunities are not there for them, they'll leave. So it's not just being respected and valued, having career advancement opportunities is really important. So depending on where you're at in your organization, you can address this in a couple of different ways. You can write recommendations for colleagues, prioritizing for diversity. So prioritizing, writing those recommendations for folks who have an intersection of disability in their life. You can observe what's happening in terms of promotions within your organization and ask questions of management if you don't see diverse representation. And I think this is something that if you were on a D&I team, you could take even further and make this a metric that you're tracking, and to see how teams are doing in terms of their diverse representation up and down, as well as across an organization. You can also look for things like churn. And if you see that, for example, a certain team can't keep a blind person on that team, or they can't keep Black women on that team, they keep leaving, there might be a problem there that you need to dive into and examine. And then Third, mentorship and reverse mentorship, which is where someone who's newer in their career works with someone who's older in their career to help the person older in their career to understand new things. That can be done with the goal of growing the careers of people with disabilities, giving them access to people further up within the organization in order to create more people who are going to be advocates for them in the organization. Now, if you happen to come from a privileged group in your organization, I put the onus even more on you to be able to use your privilege as a currency and to help to uplift the diversity within your organization. And perhaps in the most formal way, working full-time in a D&I organization, you can work on auditing existing company policies to ensure that disability is represented there appropriately. You can help to draft new policies. You can suggest freely available accessibility and D&I trainings to colleagues if you don't have a budget to create such trainings yourself or hire out for that. You can also work to create or co-create workshops and trainings for your company and team. That should, again, be done with people from the disability community as well as people from various diverse backgrounds as well. And then push for your company to mandate accessibility and D&I training, and specifically call out that managers need additional training in this space. There are different things that people managers have to take into account and have to work with that we need to be need them to be thinking about in the context of this role. And then finally, advocating for diverse representation and the modeling of inclusive behavior in any sort of in-house video-based trainings or presentations and such that are being done, and making sure that there are people who are there and who are showing up not in a token way, but in a really authentic way. So as an accessibility dev, your unique skills and perspective can help to increase the inclusiveness of your company for fellow employees, which will lead to the creation of more inclusive and innovative products and services. So these are just 5 areas that need you. To recap, they are design systems, product design, data science, AI ethics and research, and diversity and inclusion. There are way more, but I only have so much time. If you're feeling stuck, hopefully this gives you some idea of the kinds of opportunities that are out there for you. And if you only come away from this session with one thing, please let it be this: you are more valuable than you realize. You are a change maker. Thank you all so much. I'm happy to answer questions now. And if you have questions after this session, or if you're watching this asynchronously, you can also hit me up on social media. The first link there, Aaron at Front End Social, is Mastodon. And then I'm Aaron Gustafson on most of the other socials, including Twitter. Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Fantastic presentation. I really appreciate your time. A lot of great chat and Q&A activity. I love the well-rounded approach that you've taken to this presentation, right? A lot of dev teams can absolutely use their position to further accessibility. Accessibility is this multi-tiered problem / opportunity, right? So yeah, use your voice in these other areas as well. I love it. For our attendees here, just a reminder to head over to the questions section of the chat service to post questions. You can also upvote the questions that you really think need to get in front of Aaron, and I'll relay them to him. First question, Aaron. What would be your advice on scaling accessibility strategy with a very limited budget?
That's a tough one. I think, it helps to get scrappy. I think that, I kind of come from a background in the world of zines and stuff like that, where we were trying to make do with, the very scant resources that we had. So I think, a lot of it's going to be grassroots work, trying to bring other people into the fold, into the cause, hosting, lunch and learns and things like that to try and bring more people into the fold, and then to be able to use sort of your human power to overcome the lack of financial power that you have within the organization in order to achieve your goals. There's definitely not a silver bullet, but I will say, sort of on the flip side, to advocate for higher budget, if you can find ways to bring back the accessibility concerns or the number of people that you've unblocked, and sort of make connections back to the financials of the company and how accessibility is actually improving the bottom line for the company, you can make a case for more funding to be directed to your organization. So that would be another thing that I'd suggest is going for those examples, even if they're somewhat far afield, like the WhatsApp one that I shared, to explain to people that, hey, if we take down these barriers, we create more opportunities to reach more people. We're going to get a leg up on our competition. That's going to help our bottom line. I just need an extra whatever in order to try and make that happen. Or, hey, let's see what the impact would be if we tried this for 6 months. There's all sorts of ways that you can approach that. And I'd say just, get creative. And it can feel weird sometimes when, I don't know, my perspective and sort of why I got into accessibility is because it's, I feel like it's the right thing to do, right? But a lot of times I'll put on my my hat for financial stuff and make the argument from that standpoint, because sometimes that's the language that senior management understands. And so if I can talk to them about, how many people are we artificially suppressing from being potential customers because we haven't fixed this thing, that's affecting their bottom line. And if I can get them to do it for the money, then as long as we get there in the end, I don't really care like what their motivation was. So sometimes I think we have to get past that like altruistic approach to why we're doing the work that we do. And speak the language of senior leadership and get them to understand the value, the monetary value to them and to their shareholders, et cetera, to making moves in accessibility.
So I think you probably started to answer some of this question already. I think it's probably a good segue. This question is, do you have any recommendations for communicating as a developer with leadership or non-technical accessibility staff on the technical strategies and feasibility of these initiatives, especially in large organizations? Is it any different?
Yeah, I would say that working on communication skills is going to serve you incredibly well. So some of that is going to start with working on your writing and really like clarity of thought, being able to be succinct, which is something I struggle with because I'm very long-winded, but being able to kind of boil something down and to not get too mired in the detail, but to be able to present the sort of the overall story, the narrative that you want to convey, and to provide anecdotes, things that they can sort of glom onto and can understand in an easy way. Metaphor is great for this. Being able to provide them with examples of this happening for other companies, other organizations. If you have examples from your own organization, certainly include those, but storytelling is a big part of that. And so I think there's a lot of value in, I guess, adding more of sort of the PME skills of storytelling and narrative and, convincing people, those sorts of things. If I could make a couple of recommendations in that world, there are a couple of great books. Made to Stick is a really great book in this space. There's another one called The Imaginative Argument. There are a couple of others that I'll think of and share via social media, but those are two that pop out immediately. I think reading up on sort of not the art of persuasion in like a slimy way, but like how to connect with people, because it's through those connections that we make change. And so learning how to communicate better, You can search for keywords like executive communication. There's like a whole practice in that space that can really help you to understand how to speak executive. And that can be really helpful as well. But storytelling is going to be key. It's a really big deal.
How do you get that audience? What are some ways in that you've seen succeed for you in the past?
So in terms of sort of making your way, every organization is going to be different, but I think starting to have conversations with sort of your direct management and showing them these things and demonstrating the thought leadership that you have in this space and how you're thinking strategically about it. They will then hopefully, if they're supportive management, will hopefully bubble that stuff up and help you to get into those higher and higher places. I'd say also if there are meetings that you're in with higher ups where it's appropriate, where you're not taking things too far afield to ask questions, but ask insightful questions that kind of hint at what it is that you want to talk to them about, and that can sometimes open doors as well. Also, never be afraid to ask somebody else within your organization for an introduction. Tell them why it is that you want to talk to someone within your company, what it was that you wanted to talk to them about, and ask them if they would mind introducing you to them with that context. The worst thing they could say is no, and you're no worse off than you were before when you didn't ask them. So I think we need to get comfortable with asking for what it is that we want. And then, depending again on your organization, don't be afraid to, drop an email and, ask a question of the person and just kind of open up the door, make it slightly ajar to the conversation that you want to ultimately have with them, but just ask a question about something in, a non-confrontational way to sort of get them to think about that, and maybe they engage with you on that, and then you can have the conversation that you want to have. But those are a few of the ways that I recommend doing it. And hopefully one of those ends up working for you.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. So we've got another good one here. It might be our last question. We'll see how we're doing on time.
Sure.
So this person's concerned about maintaining their state of accessibility. So it often falls on the shoulders of the content creator. So they may have done all the right things to develop an accessible app, and then the content itself regresses the state of the accessibility. What advice would you have for someone in that situation?
If you have the capacity to do so, I would say invest in tooling. This is going to be tooling, not necessarily CI/CD systems, though that could be part of it as well. You can have automated testing where you're checking for those most common errors of content authors, where maybe they're using non-inclusive language, or they're writing at too high of a grade level, or using too much industry jargon, or something like that. That sort of stuff can be caught with automated testing. But also where it is that they're actually authoring that content can be another place that there is starting to be more tooling that is able to catch that stuff earlier on. Certainly if there's some sort of weird pipeline, for example, where people are authoring in Word and that's getting sucked into some sort of automated system and then published out to your site, making sure that they know that they need to run an accessibility check to make sure that they have alternative text on images that are not presentational and stuff like that. So, and to make sure that the process that's importing that content is abiding by that information as well. I think really investing in that tooling space is going to help you to maintain that rigor around accessibility that you need to have. Because that's the number of times that I've built content management systems for folks and really tried to put guardrails on and stuff like that. And then they come in and throw in a bunch of giant images with no alt text and stuff like that, or drop text in images and stuff. It becomes really painful. the more you can automate that and the more you can, ideally reject their submission before it makes it to the public website, the better off you're going to be, the less likelihood that you're going to create problems. You can from a financial standpoint, you can frame it in introducing risk. And so, getting funding and saying like, this is a risk and, we need X funding in order to put the tooling in place to ensure that we mitigate, this risk to the greatest extent possible and try and go from that angle. Awesome.
Aaron, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation. Really appreciate your insights and handling the questions. For those of you that joined us, thank you so much for your time and attention and passion for digital accessibility and your great engagement in the chat and your questions for Aaron. Aaron, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very much.